The sound of Emily's laughter echoed from the kitchen as Tyler stepped into the living room, his hands still grimy from repairing the backyard fence. At 34 years old, Tyler had always been a man who took pride in his work, whether it was fixing things around the house or keeping their suburban lives in Clarksville, Tennessee, running smoothly. His phone buzzed on the coffee table, lighting up with a series of notifications. Except it wasn't his phone. It was Emily's. The phone, left unlocked, vibrated relentlessly with a frequency that seemed unusual for her typical social interactions. A sense of unease crept over Tyler as he reached for it. He wasn't usually one to invade her privacy, but something felt off. What greeted him on the screen made his chest tighten. "I can't wait to see you tonight. The way you held me last week, I can't stop thinking about it." Matt? Matt? His best friend? Tyler's heart pounded as he stared at the message. His pulse quickened when more text scrolled into view. "You always know how to make me feel alive. I miss you already." The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Tyler sat frozen, unable to process what he was seeing. Emily, his wife of 6 years, the woman he had built a life with, was having an affair. And not just with anyone, but with Matt, the man he had trusted with everything. More messages filled the screen, each one peeling back layers of deceit Tyler hadn't even suspected. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. This was deliberate, planned, woven into the fabric of a life he thought they'd built together. That evening, the family gathered at their house for what was meant to be a celebratory dinner. Emily, 32 and full of excitement, had invited everyone, her parents, Tyler's younger sister, and even Matt, to toast the completion of a major project at work. Tyler, however, was a man barely holding himself together. He said nothing about the texts as they gathered around the dining table. The weight of what he knew simmered beneath his calm exterior, a storm brewing just under the surface. As everyone laughed and clinked their glasses, Tyler abruptly stood, the scrape of his chair silencing the room. "I need to say something," he began, his voice low but trembling with suppressed rage. "Emily, you've been lying to me and to all of us." Her smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice tinged with nervousness. Tyler pulled his phone from his pocket, tapping the screen to reveal the messages he had forwarded to himself. Holding it up, he declared, This is proof that you've been having an affair with Matt." Gasps rippled through the room. Emily's face drained of color, and Matt shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "It's not what you think, Tyler," Emily stammered. "Please, let me explain." "No explanations." Tyler snapped, his voice breaking with emotion. "You betrayed me. You betrayed all of us in the worst way possible." He turned to the rest of the family. "I'm done with her with this life. I won't live another day being lied to." Matt stood, his face pale. But Tyler raised a hand, cutting him off. You were my best friend, my brother, and this is how you repay me?" Silence fell over the room as Tyler turned and stormed out, leaving stunned faces and shattered relationships in his wake. Later that evening, Tyler found himself standing in the driveway, a small duffel bag slung over his shoulder. The cool Tennessee air did little to soothe the fire burning in his chest. His battered pickup truck was parked under the dim glow of the porch light, its bed already packed with a few hastily chosen essentials. From the house, Emily's voice called out, desperate and pleading. "Tyler, wait. Please, let's talk. You're not thinking straight." Tyler froze for a moment, the pain of her betrayal weighing down on him. But he didn't turn around. Without a word, he climbed into the truck and turned the key. The engine roared to life, drowning out Emily's protests. As he drove away, the familiar streets of Clarksville faded behind him. The dim streetlights gave way to dark stretches of highway, leading him toward the mountains. His mind was a chaotic storm of memories of the woman he thought he knew, of the life they had built together, and of the messages that had shattered it all. Hours later, Tyler pulled up to a small, secluded cabin he had rented on a whim. Nestled deep in the Smoky Mountains, the cabin was humble but sturdy, surrounded by towering pines that whispered in the cool night breeze. The quiet was almost unsettling after the chaos he had left behind. He stepped out of the truck, stretching his stiff muscles as he gazed at the rustic cabin. It wasn't much, but it was enough. For now, it would be his sanctuary. As he stood on the porch, a text buzzed on his phone. For a fleeting moment, he thought of Emily, but the sender was someone unexpected, Josh, his brother-in-law. I don't know what happened, man, but I've got your back. If you need anything, just say the word. Tyler exhaled slowly, the gesture offering him a shred of solace. At least someone still stood by him. He pocketed the phone, walked inside, and dropped his bag onto the creaky wooden floor. This is where it begins, he muttered to himself, his voice barely audible over the faint rustling of the trees outside. This is where I start over. The morning sun filtered through the dense trees surrounding the cabin, casting soft golden rays onto the forest floor. Tyler stood on the porch, sipping a mug of black coffee. The bitter taste seemed to match the weight in his chest. He stared out at the mountains, their quiet grandeur offering a strange kind of comfort. Days turned into weeks, and Tyler began to settle into his new routine. The town nestled near the base of the mountains was a world away from the suburban life he had left behind. He found solace in the simplicity of his new surroundings, the local diner where the regulars greeted him with friendly nods, the small general store with its shelves stocked with essentials and little else. One day, while walking through the quaint downtown, Tyler noticed a faded-for-sale sign hanging crookedly in the window of an old hardware store. The building was worn but sturdy, much like the cabin he now called home. Something about it caught his eye. Stepping inside, he was greeted by the musty smell of wood and metal. Dust coated the shelves, and the inventory was sparse. Bins of nails, rusty saws, and boxes of screws that hadn't been touched in years. "Can I help you?" came a gruff voice from the back. An elderly man in overalls shuffled forward, wiping his hands on a rag. His name tag read Charlie. "I saw the sign," Tyler said. "Are you selling the place?" Charlie nodded. "Been running this shop for 40 years. Time for me to retire. You interested?" Tyler hesitated. Could this be his fresh start? He thought about the life he had left behind, the corporate grind, the suburban monotony. Something about this old store felt right. "How much are you asking?" Tyler asked. Charlie chuckled. "Let's talk over coffee. You look like a man who knows his way around a wrench." The hardware store quickly became Tyler's focus. With his modest savings, he finalized the purchase from Charlie, who was more than happy to pass the torch. The first weeks were grueling, a whirlwind of cleaning, organizing, and repairing shelves that had seen better days. Tyler worked from dawn to dusk, pouring all his energy into the store as a way to quiet his restless mind. The locals took notice. Farmers stopped by for tools, contractors came in for supplies, and townsfolk wandered in out of curiosity about the newcomer. One afternoon, a cheerful voice called out as the door jingled open. "You must be Tyler." Tyler turned to see a petite woman in her 60s, her gray hair tied back in a neat bun. She carried a tray of steaming coffee cups and pastries. Her name tag, from the neighboring coffee shop, read Linda. "Thought you could use a pick-me-up," she said with a smile, placing the tray on the counter. "Thanks," Tyler said, surprised by her warmth. "You didn't have to do that." "Nonsense," Linda replied. "It's not every day someone breathes new life into this place. The town's been talking about you." "Hopefully, good things," Tyler said with a small smile. Linda chuckled. "Mostly. Small-town gossip isn't always kind, but don't let it bother you. You're doing something good here." As the weeks went by, the hardware store became more than just a business. It became a place where people gathered. Tyler's hands-on approach and genuine demeanor earned him respect, even from the town's more skeptical residents. He found himself growing attached to the simple, honest rhythm of life in the small mountain town. Despite the progress he was making, Tyler couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. At first, it was subtle, a glance from across the diner or the sensation of someone's eyes on him while he worked late in the store. But soon a pattern emerged. It was always the same man, tall and broad-shouldered. The stranger had a rugged look about him, a thick beard, sharp eyes, and a leather jacket that seemed out of place in the town's laid-back atmosphere. Tyler had spotted him multiple times, sitting a few tables away at the diner, loitering near the park, and even lingering outside the store one evening. Linda noticed the tension one day as she dropped by. "You okay? You seem distracted." Tyler nodded toward the window. You know that guy? The one in the leather jacket? Linda's gaze followed his, and her expression turned serious. That's Luke. He's not from here, but he's been around for a while. Keeps to himself. Why? Tyler shrugged. No reason. Just feels like he's watching me. Linda's brow furrowed. I'll keep an eye out. You be careful. One evening, as Tyler was closing up shop, he turned to find Luke standing in the doorway. The quiet of the ceiling fan was the only sound as the two men sized each other up. Can I help you? Tyler asked, his tone polite but firm. Luke stepped forward, his expression unreadable. You're Tyler, right? Moved here from Clarksville? Tyler's heart skipped a beat. Depends who's asking. Luke nodded slowly, as if assessing Tyler's reaction. Your ex and her friend. They're looking for you. The words hit Tyler like a gut punch, but he kept his face neutral. Why? Luke sighed and pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket. They're saying you ran off with money. That you're hiding something. Tyler clenched his fists, anger flaring in his chest. That's a lie. I figured as much, Luke replied calmly. That's why I'm here. I've been tracking them for a while. Let's just say I've got my reasons. What reasons? Luke hesitated, then said, Matt's business tanked because of his greed, and he left a trail of destruction in his wake. People like me got caught in the fallout. I don't like seeing guys like you take the blame for his mess. Tyler studied Luke's face, searching for deception, but finding none. So what now? Luke smirked. Now, I help you fight back. That night, Tyler sat on the porch of his cabin, Luke's words echoing in his mind. The cool mountain air did little to ease the storm inside him. Emily and Matt weren't just trying to ruin his reputation. They were actively plotting to drag him back into their chaos. But Luke's revelation sparked something Tyler hadn't felt in months, a flicker of determination. The next morning, Luke showed up at the hardware store carrying a worn leather satchel. I've got something for you, he said, nodding toward the back office. Tyler followed him inside, where Luke spread a collection of papers across the desk. Bank statements, forged contracts, and screenshots of email chains. All of it tying Matt and Emily to financial fraud. This is what I've dug up so far, Luke said. Matt set up a shell company in your name. Funneled money through it to cover his debts. Made it look like you were embezzling. Tyler scanned the documents, his stomach twisting. And Emily? Luke pointed to a highlighted section of a bank statement. She made the withdrawals. Her name's all over these transactions. Tyler's hands trembled as he stared at the evidence. Memories flooded back. Emily brushing off his concerns about missing money, calling him paranoid whenever he questioned their finances. She gaslit me for years, Tyler muttered. Made me think I was imagining things. She was complicit, but Matt was the mastermind, Luke said. He needed a scapegoat, and you were convenient. Tyler's jaw tightened. They ruined everything. My marriage, my reputation, my life. Luke leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. But they didn't ruin you. You're still standing. And now you've got a chance to clear your name. That afternoon, Tyler drove into town to meet with Sarah, a sharp and pragmatic lawyer who had come highly recommended by Linda. Her office, tucked into the corner of a brick building near the town square, was modest but organized. As Tyler laid out the evidence Luke had provided, Sarah's expression shifted from curiosity to determination. This is damning, she said, tapping one of the bank statements. If we can prove these documents were forged and tie them back to Matt, you have a strong case. Not just to clear your name, but to hold them accountable. What about Emily? Tyler asked, bitterness creeping into his voice. She's just as guilty. Sarah nodded. We'll deal with her too. But first we need to solidify this evidence. I'll start by pulling court records to verify these claims. In the meantime, keep a low profile. If they catch wind of what we're doing, they might try to cover their tracks. Tyler nodded, a sense of purpose taking root. For the first time since leaving Clarksville, he felt like he had a path forward, a chance to fight back. That evening, Tyler sat in his cabin, the documents spread out before him on the coffee table. As he sifted through the evidence, memories of his life with Emily surfaced unbidden. He thought about the day she insisted on managing their finances, claiming it would save him time. At the time, he had trusted her implicitly, grateful for her organization. Now he saw it for what it was, a calculated move to keep him in the dark. He remembered how she'd dismissed his concerns when money went missing. "You're overthinking it, Tyler," she'd say with a laugh. "It's just an accounting error." Her condescending tone still rang in his ears. By the time the clock struck midnight, Tyler's resolve had hardened. He wasn't just going to defend himself. He was going to expose them. The next morning, Sarah called him into her office. She had spent the night cross-referencing Luke's evidence with court records and found even more connections. "This is bigger than we thought," Sarah said, her tone serious. "Matt used the shell company to secure fraudulent loans, and Emily signed off on some of the applications. If we can tie this directly to them, it's game over." "What's the next step?" Tyler asked. "We file a formal report with the courthouse and request an investigation," Sarah replied. "And while that's happening, I suggest we stay one step ahead. Matt's desperate, and desperate people make mistakes." The days that followed were a whirlwind of preparation. Tyler worked closely with Sarah and Luke, piecing together a timeline of events that painted a clear picture of Matt and Emily's deceit. Every forged signature, every suspicious bank transfer, every email, each detail added weight to the case. But the tension grew. Tyler couldn't shake the feeling that Matt or Emily might appear out of nowhere to confront him. The thought kept him on edge, especially after Luke's warning about their desperation. One morning, Tyler stepped out of the hardware store to grab some air. The crisp mountain breeze was refreshing, but his thoughts remained heavy. As he turned to head back inside, his heart skipped a beat. Emily was standing across the street. She looked different from the polished woman he once knew. Her hair was unkempt, her coat wrinkled, and her face carried a tired, almost haunted expression. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then she started walking toward him. Tyler's stomach churned. He wanted nothing to do with her, but he couldn't turn away. She stopped a few feet from him, her voice trembling. "Tyler, can we talk?" He crossed his arms, keeping his tone cold. "What do you want, Emily?" She hesitated, glancing nervously around, as if afraid someone might overhear. "It's not what you think. Matt, he's out of control. He's dragging me down with him, and I don't know what to do." Tyler let out a bitter laugh. "You expect me to believe you're the victim now? You were right there with him. Emily, you signed the papers. You lied to me for years." Her expression crumpled, and she reached for his arm. "I didn't have a choice. You don't know what he's capable of." Tyler stepped back, shaking his head. "You made your choices. Now you're here because you want me to save you. But you're on your own, Emily." Before she could respond, the sound of a car door slamming nearby broke the moment. Tyler turned to see Luke stepping out of his truck, his sharp gaze fixed on Emily. She flinched under his scrutiny. "You might want to leave," Luke said, his voice calm but firm. "This isn't your town." Emily's shoulders sagged, and for a moment, Tyler thought she might cry. Instead, she turned and hurried back to her car. As she drove away, Luke turned to Tyler. "She's scared," Luke said. "That means we're getting close." That evening, Sarah called Tyler with news. "The courthouse approved our request for an investigation. They're pulling Matt's financial records and reviewing the evidence." "That's good, right?" Tyler asked, pacing the cabin's small living room. "It's a great start," Sarah replied. "But there's something else. I got a call from a source who used to work with Matt. They're willing to testify on the condition of anonymity." "Why now?" Tyler asked, suspicious. "Because Matt's starting to burn bridges," Sarah explained. "He's panicking, and it's making people who were once loyal to him reconsider." Tyler exhaled slowly. "Then we keep pushing." The next day, as Tyler prepared for work, he noticed a letter slipped under the cabin door. Frowning, he picked it up and unfolded the paper. The message was short and chilling. "You don't know who you're messing with. Walk away before it's too late." His hands clenched around the letter. There was no signature, but Tyler didn't need one to guess who had sent it. He immediately called Luke. "Looks like Matt's playing games," Tyler said. Luke's voice was steady. "Good. That means he's feeling cornered. But don't let your guard down. He's dangerous when he's desperate." 2 nights later, Tyler joined Luke and Sarah at her office. The three of them combed through the latest findings, piecing together the final parts of the case. The evidence was overwhelming, and the upcoming court hearing would undoubtedly expose Matt and Emily's schemes. But as they worked, the office phone rang. Sarah answered, her expression darkening as she listened. Got it, she said before hanging up. Turning to Tyler and Luke, she explained that was the sheriff. Matt's in town. Tyler felt a chill run down his spine. What's he doing here? Probably trying to intimidate you, Sarah said. But this might be our chance. If he makes a move, we'll have even more leverage. Sure enough, the next morning, Matt showed up at the hardware store. He strode in like he owned the place, his suit and polished shoes a stark contrast to the rustic setting. Tyler stood behind the counter, his heart pounding, but his face calm. Tyler, Matt said with a smirk. Long time no see. What do you want? Tyler asked, keeping his voice steady. Matt leaned on the counter, his expression smug. I came to offer you a deal. You drop whatever nonsense you're cooking up, and I'll make sure you're left alone. Tyler crossed his arms. You think I'm afraid of you? Matt's smile faltered, and a flicker of anger crossed his face. You should be. You don't have the resources to fight me. You'll lose, Tyler. Just like you've lost everything else? Before Tyler could respond, the bell over the door jingled, and Luke walked in, his presence commanding. Funny, Matt. You don't look like a winner to me. Matt's confidence visibly wavered as Luke approached. The tension in the room was thick, but Tyler felt a spark of satisfaction. For the first time, Matt didn't seem so untouchable. Matt's smug demeanor faltered as Luke moved closer, his sharp gaze locking onto him like a predator sizing up prey. What's your angle here, Matt? Luke asked, his tone calm but dangerous. Coming into Tyler's store like this, you trying to scare him, or are you just scared yourself? Matt straightened, attempting to regain his composure. I don't know who you think you are, but this doesn't concern you. Luke chuckled darkly. It does now. See, I've got a vested interest in making sure Tyler gets justice. And you? You're just a washed-up con man trying to bluff your way out of a losing game. Matt's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. Instead, he turned his attention back to Tyler. You should listen to him. Tyler, this fight, it's not worth it. You'll come out of it worse off than you are now. Tyler felt a wave of anger surge through him. For months, Matt and Emily had stripped him of his confidence, his reputation, and the life he built. But not anymore. You're wrong, Tyler said, his voice firm. This fight is exactly what I need, and you're the one who's going to lose. Matt glared at him, his lips pressed into a thin line. Without another word, he turned and walked out of the store, slamming the door behind him. Luke watched him leave, then turned to Tyler. That went better than I expected. You handled yourself well. Tyler exhaled deeply, the adrenaline still coursing through him. I'm tired of running. It's time he realizes that. The confrontation with Matt marked a turning point for Tyler. The court hearing was fast approaching, and Sarah worked tirelessly to ensure their case was airtight. Meanwhile, Luke continued gathering additional evidence, digging deeper into Matt's shady dealings. One evening, Sarah called Tyler with unexpected news. I just got word from the sheriff. Emily's agreed to cooperate. She's turning on Matt. Tyler sat up straight, his heart racing. What? Why? Probably self-preservation, Sarah said, but this could work in our favor. She's willing to testify that Matt was the mastermind behind everything. Tyler felt a mix of emotions, relief, anger, and a sense of betrayal that still lingered. Do you think she's telling the truth? Her testimony lines up with the evidence we already have, Sarah replied. It's enough to put Matt away for good. A week later, the court hearing finally arrived. Tyler sat in the courtroom beside Sarah, his stomach a knot of nerves. Across the room, Matt sat with his lawyer, his expression icy. Emily was also present, her gaze fixed firmly on the floor. The judge entered, and the proceedings began. Sarah presented the evidence with precision, detailing every forged document, every fraudulent transaction, and every lie. Emily's testimony, though painful to hear, was damning. She described how Matt had manipulated her into participating, how he had funneled money through the shell company, and how he had planned to pin it all on Tyler. When Matt was called to the stand, his arrogance was palpable. But Sarah's cross-examination left him flustered, his lies unraveling under the weight of the evidence. By the end of the hearing, the verdict was clear. Matt was found guilty of fraud and embezzlement. Emily, though complicit, was granted leniency for her cooperation. Tyler's name was cleared, and restitution was awarded for the damages he had suffered. That evening, the town gathered at the community center to celebrate Tyler's victory. The room was filled with laughter, music, and the comforting of conversation. Long tables were covered with homemade dishes, each one a gesture of support from the community that had embraced Tyler as one of their own. Linda took the microphone, her voice cutting through the chatter. Tonight, we're here to celebrate a man who's shown us what resilience looks like. Tyler, come on up here. Amid cheers and applause, Tyler stood and made his way to the front. Linda handed him a wooden plaque engraved with his name and a simple inscription, Strength in Adversity. Tyler held the plaque, his chest tight with emotion. Thank you, he said, his voice steady but thick with gratitude. This town gave me a second chance when I had nothing left. I'm proud to call this place home. The next morning, Tyler stood outside the hardware store, watching as the sunlight bathed the street in a warm glow. Luke pulled up in his truck, leaning out the window. You staying put? Luke asked. Tyler nodded. Yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. Luke smirked. Good. You've earned it. Later that evening, Tyler returned to the scenic overlook where he often went to clear his mind. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, he heard footsteps behind him. Turning, he saw Sarah walking toward him, a soft smile on her face. Thought I might find you here, she said. Tyler gestured for her to join him. They stood in comfortable silence, the cool mountain breeze brushing against them. Thank you, Tyler said after a while, for everything. I couldn't have done this without you. Sarah turned to him, her gaze warm. You did the hard part, Tyler. You chose to keep going. That's all you. Tyler hesitated, then asked, You ever think about starting over? Sarah smiled, her hand brushing against his. All the time. Starting over doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means building something better because of it. Tyler nodded, her words resonating deeply. For the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of peace. The battles he'd fought, the betrayal, the pain, the struggle for justice had shaped him into someone stronger. They thought they could break me, he said softly, his voice filled with triumph. But I'm still standing.